Good morning, and welcome everyone. Whether you're here for the very first time or haven't been here in a long time, or you've been here as recently as about 10 hours ago, and whether you're taking your place in this circle in person or joining us online, we welcome you. We're so glad that you have chosen to spend this time together. On this second Sunday in the season of Advent, it's a time for listening in the midst of all that life is. My teammate Christopher New's been taking a brief break this week, and he'll be back with us on Tuesday. As an authentic and searching community, we welcome all sizes, all ages, all colors, all cultures, all genders, all sexualities, all spiritualities or none, all abilities, all statuses, all types, all people. And we come and gather in ways like this to learn how to hear one another into being. So as we pause to recalibrate, reorient our lives, we breathe into this time, trying to let go of all that tugs at our hearts and all that tugs at our minds. And we try to take our place mindfully with the land we call home. And as we honor the first peoples of this land, we remember our ancestors who in whatever generation came to call this place home. And together all of us acknowledge that we are partners in Treaty 6 territory, the traditional meeting ground and gathering place and traveling route of Cree and Saulteaux, and Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux peoples. And as Indigenous and immigrant and refugee, those of us who are settlers, long time or new, together we are blessed by this sacred land and these healing waters where we seek to live in deep respect and mutuality with the land that raises us and with the peoples who are our neighbors, and where we seek to mend the wounds of colonization and build trust and healing. We honor once again the tradition of lighting our Advent candles. Daisy and Ariane are going to lead us.
The 4 candles on our table are held in a circle of green. With each candle, we count down through the season of winter's dark toward the return of longer light. Advent invites us to grow our light and shine through the darkness.
We relight the first candle of Advent, reminding us of the hope that is born of encouragement. We light the second candle, reminding us of the peace that is nurtured by listening. May this time inspire us to pay attention to life and to each other, and to be present to the practice of listening.
just stay in a world that's gone astray. We are waiting for more light to come. There we are just stay in a world that's gone astray. We are waiting for more light to come.
In the light of our candles, we take this moment to pause with each other. We take this moment to pray as a way of strengthening our intentions for how it is that we would seek to live in these Advent days. We pray with one another, offering the words you find before you. Into this time, we take our place to listen underneath, within, and beyond our world of words. We gather seeking comfort in the midst of our losses, to share what we've found to be true, to shoulder our burdens together, to find wisdom for the path before us, to pursue justice where walls shut out the light, to find peace where we're anxious. We pray as those seeking to listen deeply and find wisdom for our living. May it be so.
Good morning. My name is Sherry Ann, and I would love to invite anyone else who would like to join me on the carpet for Time for All Ages. Welcome. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We are invited to read a book that's called A World of Possibilities. Possibilities. It's also called An Exercise in Mindfulness, written by Frank Cilio and illustrated by Jennifer Ziboyne. And it starts with a question. Do you know what a possibility is? A possibility is taking a pause just for you to stop and notice what you feel, think, and do. A pause is being in the moment and giving yourself a break. There's no wrong way to pause, so it's hard to make a mistake. Some pauses are silent, while some keep you moving. Pauses should be calming, so things can start improving. Come, let us explore a world of possibilities. Take a deep breath, deep, deep from your belly, and let it out slow. Relax your muscles until they feel like dough. Have something yummy and healthy to eat. Notice the flavor. Is it salty or sweet? Go outside and take a walk. Listen to silence. Try not to talk. Let the rays of the sun warm your body and face. Take time to slow down. There's no reason to race. Draw, paint, color, or just doodle. Make your body limp like a spaghetti noodle. Wear your favorite and most comfortable clothes. Be in the moment and wiggle your toes. Be good to your body and to your brain. Take the time to listen to the sound of the rain. Turn off all things that have a screen. Splash your face with warm water and make it clean. See your reflection and make a huge smile. Smiling makes us feel good, and that lasts a while. Say something nice to yourself about you. You are kind, smart, and other things too. Reach your arms to the floor and take a bow. Taking a pause focuses on what's happening now. Stretch up as far as you can reach. Step barefoot in the grass or the sand at the beach. Notice the wind when it blows through your hair. Take a pause on your bed or in a soft chair. Remember a funny story or a silly joke. Visit a furry friend and give them a gentle stroke. Find someone you love and ask for a hug. Wrap yourself in a blanket so you feel comfy and snug. Accept what you are feeling as neither right nor wrong. Taking a pause will make your mind and body strong. Taking a pause does not have to be hard. Take a pause in your room, at school, on the bus, or in your yard. Perfect. Taking a pause is easy, you see? Making time to pause and practicing is key. Have you learned how to take a pause? If so, give yourself a round of applause. When dealing with life's difficulties, stop and think about a world of possibilities. Can you come up with other possibilities? Just let them flow. There are endless possibilities. What is your world of possibilities? Let's practice, okay? Okay, here, let's do a pause ability. What a great question. What is a pause? Okay, here we go. We're invited to stop. Why don't we do one of those deep breaths? Breathe in and let out your breath so that your belly's like dough. And now let's listen in silence. Let's go. Thank you. That's a pause. Oh. So as we go into the next part of our day, we're invited to go with care and that wonder of, oh, and a question. So thank you for being here. Ariane and Daisy are ready for you as you make your way over there silently, carefully, with possibilities.
Set the night wind to the little lamb. Do you see what I see? There in the sky, little lamb. Do you see what I see? A star, dancing in the night with a tail as big as a car. Shivers in the cold, let us bring him silver and gold. Let us bring him silver and gold. Said the King to the people everywhere, listen to what I say. Pray for peace, people everywhere. Listen to what I say. The child, sleeping in the night, he will teach us goodness and light. He will teach us goodness and light.
These are the words of the Irish poet David Whyte in his poem, The Winter of Listening. No one but me by the fire, my hands burning red in the palms while the night wind carries everything away outside. All this petty worry while the great cloak of the sky grows dark and intense round every living thing. What is precious inside us does not care to be known by the mind in ways that diminish its presence. What we strive for in perfection is not what turns us into the lit angel we desire. What disturbs and then nourishes has everything we need. What we hate in ourselves is what we cannot know in ourselves. But what is true to the pattern does not need to be explained. Inside everyone is a great shout of joy waiting to be born. Even with summer so far off, I feel it growing in me now and ready to arrive in the world. All those years, listening to those who had nothing to say. All those years, forgetting how everything has its own voice to make itself heard. All those years, forgetting how easily you can belong to everything simply by listening. And the slow difficulty of remembering how everything is born from an opposite and miraculous otherness. Silence and winter have led me to that otherness. So let this winter of listening be enough for the new life I must call my own. In the words of this contemporary poet, may we find wisdom for our living. when I really want to depress myself, I think about the ratio between my hearing and my listening. And I think I probably don't really want to know how little I listen in comparison to how much I hear. And I'm grateful that I still hear quite well. But my capacity for listening, it needs boosting. And it's one of those deficits that's not solved by hearing aids. There are no listening devices to enhance listening. There are only devices to assist hearing. And yet I'm convinced that there are better ways for us to become listeners. Like you, I've had a few good teachers in my life. I'm thinking about one friend in particular who taught me what listening looks like. I've noticed that she never finishes sentences for me. And she never supplies that word I'm looking for. She'll wait until I get to the end of my thought, or I might never get to the end of my thought, and she lets it be incomplete. And when she's listening to someone, it's like there is no one else in the world. And it's like there's nothing else that she needs to do. And not another thing that she's thinking about. And there's nowhere else that she needs to be. And I've experienced her listening like that no matter who she's talking to. Even in a busy, noisy room, and even when I know she has something else that she ought to be doing and something else that she'll have to be doing very soon. There's a quality of presence that treats listening like it's the only thing that matters in a given moment. And there's a capacity to banish distraction that allows one to pay attention to what is being said. My listening is impaired not only by the noise around me, but also by the noise within me. The clanging of my thoughts banging up against each other in my head. And then the racetrack of thoughts that are lunging ahead to the next moment, leaping ahead beyond the present breath and the present word and the present sentence and even the silence. And I've begun to know that my capacity to listen will always be directly proportional to my capacity to pay attention. There's so much in our culture that has shortened our attention spans. We devour sound bites, and we push investigative or in-depth analysis off to the side of our plate. It takes just too much effort to digest. And we scroll through our feed or countless streaming options, not able to find anything that holds our attention. And have you noticed how conversation sometimes looks more like a tennis match, where we're receiving the incoming serve, but really our focus is on positioning ourselves for our response? I'm glad I'm not the only one. If you didn't recognize this, I'd be in big trouble. And this time of year, there's a whole lot that competes for our attention. There's so much to entertain us and distract us, and lots of memories to lay their claim on us. Lots of jingling bells in and around us. But the stories that give us this season are stories that are shaped by listening. Have you noticed? Luke's version of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth is introduced to us by the birth of his cousin John. Born to parents who thought they were well beyond the age of ever having a child. And this birth exceeded their wildest expectations. We get the impression that perhaps Elizabeth and Zachariah had come to terms in some way with the reality of infertility. They'd made peace with the expectations of their family and of their society. So much so that the story makes Zachariah speechless with the shock of learning that he's an expectant father. After struggling for so many years with all that it means in the ancient world to be without an heir. But in the world of that story, this elderly priest wasn't just momentarily speechless. He was mute for the entire gestation period. He couldn't speak again until after the birth of his child. So in all of those months that he awaited his son's birth, he listened. As the story continues, his wife's cousin, a young woman named Mary, was on the brink of becoming a partner, engaged to a carpenter and not expecting to be a parent for a while yet. And she listened to a stranger who told her she would be navigating the untimely birth of a child. And then Mary made her way to her cousin, Elizabeth, Zachariah's wife, and they listened to their bodies. And they listened to their fears. And they listened to their hopes. And they listened to one another. And through that listening, they each found their way to embrace the unexpected that had intruded into each of their lives. And then Luke's story gives us shepherds who listen to songs they hear in the dead of the night and lead them to the wonder of new life. The story goes on to tell us that soon after Mary's child arrived, she listened to the wisdom of a frail priest and an elderly devout woman that she met in the temple when she and Joseph presented their child for the ritual of dedication. As the story goes, that respected elder took the child into his arms and he offered his wonder, and then he warned them of heartbreak that was coming down the road to meet them. An elderly woman who lived on the margins of society at the mercy of the economics of privilege and patriarchy. One who had the wisdom of the lived experience, found within herself the capacity to express joy and longing. And she speaks truthfully to these parents about the harsh world of hard hope into which this child has come. The other version of this birth story that our tradition gives us introduces us to other listeners. Matthew's story begins with a man who listened to his dreams. Joseph's not expecting to be a father just yet. And he listens beyond his reactions, beyond his embarrassment, beyond his fears, beyond his taking offense, beyond his surprise, perhaps beyond his outrage, to open his heart for what he was unprepared for, unready, resistant. And he listens again to the wisdom that his dreams brought after the birth of this child, which led him to seek refuge in Egypt for a time in order to protect his family. And then the story tells us he listens to night voices a third time and returns his family north to their home in Nazareth when his dreams tell him it's safe. From the first moment we meet him until he disappears from Luke's story, he follows his listening heart. And then there were those who listened to the stars, travelers who followed patterns in the night sky, who listened to their intuition, listened to their dreams, found their way to Bethlehem and then back by another way. The stories that give us this season are stories of listeners, characters who listen more than they speak, who listen to strangers, who listen to the wisdom of elders, who listen to their dreams, who listen to their best instincts, who lean into their trusted relationships and listen beyond the noise of their fears and beyond the noise of their reactions. Most of us are born with hearing. Maybe it takes a lifetime to learn to listen. To learn how to give our attention in the midst of so much that seeks to take our attention. Where do we choose to give it as opposed to what takes it? To be able to settle our presence with one another. To settle our presence with the bird and the song or the experience of the wind or whoever or whatever we're with. And here's a harder one. To learn how to suspend our rush to judgment. To refuse to hear too quickly. To listen in, under, and around the words that are spoken. To dial down our inclination to spend the time we appear to be listening, to stop rehearsing our response that we're going to offer as soon as someone stops speaking. And to train ourselves away from wandering away into the thoughts that intrude. Advent is a time for listening. For the sounds we love to hear in this season. For the stories we love to hear. And for the struggles and the circumstances that are so hard to hear. And it's a time to listen to the voices of our rivers and oceans, our air and atmosphere, our soil and seeds. A time to listen to all the voices that don't dominate public conversations. The voices of those who are most affected. Those who've lost their voice, become invisible. As we make our way through this storied season, we can give ourselves the gift of listening. we can give each other the priceless gift of listening. And even though we hear through these little holes on the sides of our heads, listening actually takes our whole being. Maybe that's why the stories attributed to Jesus, the wisdom teacher, often give us his punchline as those with ears to hear. Listen. Because it takes way more than our ears. Imagine what could happen if we actually were to listen with our whole being. If our whole being could hear what our ears hear. I've imagined it out loud many times. And I still believe it to be true, and so I'll say it again. If our hearts could hear what our ears hear, we'd have more liberation and less oppression. We'd have more justice and we'd have less charity. We'd have more sharing and we'd have less hunger. We'd have more giving and we'd have less accumulating. We'd have more one world and we'd have less first world. We'd have more respect for diversity. We'd have less tolerance for discrimination. If our whole being could hear what our ears hear, we'd have more peace and less war. We'd have more conversation and less contempt. If our hearts could hear what our ears hear, we'd have more understanding and less prejudice. We'd have more empathy and fewer opinions. We'd have more questions and fewer answers. We'd have more mutuality and less domination. We'd have more love and less fear. And we'd know less, but we'd feel more. And we'd cry more. And we'd laugh longer. If our hearts could hear what our ears hear, we'd be listening. I just want to share a few announcements and invitations about this season while we're gathered as this Sunday morning community. Thank you for the gifts that you have brought over the course of the last couple of weeks for Bissell. We have a mound of things in the office to take to the Bissell Center this week. There is a box in the foyer if you've brought some of those items that we're collecting and haven't had a place to put them yet. You'll find a box just by the mailboxes that would be happy to receive those gifts today. I want to thank those of you who picked up your stewardship and financial and volunteer forms last week. If you didn't, please check your mailbox in the foyer. Some of your packages have been placed there, and others of you will discover yours in the mail in the next week or two. But please, before you leave today, check the ones in the foyer, check your mailbox so it saves us an opportunity to not have to mail those out to folks. We had a wonderful evening together last night at our festive December dessert fundraiser. And we not only succeeded in having a great deal of fun, but we also succeeded in raising some funds. And over $4,500 came in last evening, and that will offer us over $3,000 once expenses are cleared away. So we want to thank all of you who came and all of you who made it possible, all of you who gave so much time and effort to our evening together. It's a great celebration. Our friend Gord Oakes, together with a number of music collaborators, are once again sponsoring Deep Winter Song. This is the 16th year that they have offered this. It will be held here at SSUC on the evening of December 18th. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, and it will not only be an in-person event, but will also be streamed. So I invite us to support Gord and the members of Revolve and other local Edmonton artists and creators for that wonderful evening together on the edge of winter solstice. I have several December invitations for all of you. On Wednesday, December 14th, we'll have our Blue Christmas gathering. This is a very significant and wonderful offering in our Christmas season. It's a gentle time to be with the complexity of this season. For some, it is a season of sadness because of loss. For others, it is a season of stress and difficulty in relationships with family or the losses of Christmases past. And so it's an opportunity for us to come together for a quiet, supportive, reflective evening. And it is anything but depressing. I know it's often a tough sell to invite you to come to what is my favorite service of the year, Blue Christmas, Wednesday, the 14th of December, a hopeful and gentle gathering. Please join us. It will also be live streamed. And the following Wednesday evening, which is solstice, we'll gather in a circle at 7 o'clock for a time to reflect on the gifts of darkness, and at 7:30 to walk the new labyrinth that we are welcoming into this space. So our solstice labyrinth walk on the 21st. And then Christmas Eve, there are 3 opportunities to gather. At 4 o'clock, especially for young families, young children in particular, an interactive service that is specially designed for children. At 7 o'clock, a gathering for all ages, and at 9 o'clock, a more reflective gathering in terms of the music, but otherwise identical to the service at 7. So 2 options, 7 and 9, with the difference being 9 o'clock being our more reflective music that we'll be offering that evening. So please plan to join us. The 7 o'clock gathering will be live streamed, and we invite you to be with us either in person or online.
waited far too long to fly. A dream for justice, a dream for peace, a dream that will not be denied. And I hope you can see what your dream needs to be. We will learn from each other, heal one another, build what is good and true. We will reach out, sing out, make a change. We will show the world what love can do. We will show the world what love can do. A song of kindness, a song of hope, a song too strong to be ignored. Let us sing everywhere of the vision we share. We will learn from each other, heal one another, build what is good and true. We will reach out, sing out, make a change. We will show the world what love can do. The shadows are fading, the walls are coming down. From the fallen stones we will build a home where light and love are found. We will learn from each other, heal one another, build what is good and true. We will reach out, sing out, make a change. We will show the world. Reach out, we will show the world. We will sing out, we will make a change and show the world what love can do. What love can do. What love can do.
We go into a world that is waiting to be heard, waiting for listeners. We go knowing that the first duty of love is to listen. And so we go to bring our love to the needs of the world as we listen closely, generously, carefully.
festive time rejoice with heart and soul and voice. Wondrous news we have to tell. Love in all is born to dwell. Born within it outward grows, and then to all the world it flows. Love is born today. Love is born today. This festive time rejoice.